Putin Bad News Putin's hold on power is eroding, and the US must seize the opportunity now. While Moscow would have you believe otherwise, Russian President Vladimir Putin is actually losing ground in Ukraine. Russia isn't doing very well. The ruble is expected to fall sharply. Russian inflation is at crisis levels. There will be further political unrest soon. Putin is losing support from countries around the world. However, Ukraine and the West still face significant challenges. Putin wants to drag out the conflict in Ukraine in order to wear the West down. The United States would benefit from assisting Ukraine. Ukraine's protracted conflict is not. Washington should take advantage of the current climate to lay the groundwork for life after Putin. What new developments have the greatest potential to set off a chain reaction that would eventually lead to Putin losing power? Drone strikes on Russian maritime oil shipments by the Ukrainian government have contributed to elite anxiety, and the rising cost of insurance as a result of these attacks will further erode Russia's already meager export margins. The price of Russian oil exported to India hit a record low this week. China's economic woes and signals that it is growing weary of Moscow's war serve as a backdrop to all of this. To keep the value of the ruble, which has dropped by over 50% this year and 20% in the past month alone, Russia has been spending massive amounts of its foreign currency reserves. Even though the central bank raised interest rates from 8.5% to 9.5% last week in an effort to curb inflation, the Kremlin is still pumping money into the domestic economy, giving it a false sense of stability and growth. Economists have warned that Russia is heading toward hyperinflation if this bubble, which was artificially created, bursts. Military disintegration. The Institute for the Study of War reports rising insurrection within the Russian armed forces. Troops refusing to obey their officers can be an indicator of a crisis unfolding within the ranks, as the Tsar discovered in 1916. If something else happened to the Russian military like the Prigozhin incident, morale would plummet. It's also likely that the number of deserting soldiers will increase, as no one wants to be the last man standing in a futile military operation. Collapse of government. Coups are always a possibility in Russia, where the removal of leaders has a long and storied history. The dash to Rostov by mercenary chief Yevgeny Prigozhin demonstrated that the majority of the Kremlin's leadership did not rally behind Putin. It is now obvious that the inner circles of Kremlin power, in the event of a serious attempt to overthrow the government, would be more concerned with negotiating their own escape than pleading for the life of their former patron dictator. Some may worry that perhaps a person even worse than Putin would fill his seat, but the incoming leader will put a premium on establishing his legitimacy, to ensure that his rule is not questioned. In order to secure Western support, the new ruler may be willing to make concessions to the West, including abandoning imperial claims on Ukraine. To ensure this, the United States should immediately begin planning for a world without Vladimir Putin in conjunction with the Russian Democratic Opposition, which has been fighting on the side of Ukraine since the conflict broke out in 2014.